Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Glue Podcast with me and Brush, as always. I'm going to be reviewing Manchester United against FC Sheriff, and what a pulsating game of football that was. Um, I think for 70 out of the 90 minutes, it was absolutely boring. There's United played some nice football in moments, but that's all it was really. And we got the result 2-0 on the night. It was efficient, but it wasn't spectacular. So, what was your thoughts on the game, Brush?
Yeah, pretty much the same, Carl. The second half completely. I mean, it felt like a training match. Even in the first half, it was real lethargic, very slow build up, no sense of urgency at all. I was shouting at the screen at one or two plays where they just took their time as if it was a training game. Yeah, one or two bright sparks. I like the goal, Sancho's goal. That was a team move. But aside from that, not really much to shout about in this one.
Yeah, and it's very strange at the moment as well, isn't it? We seem to be playing nothing but Europa League games, and then for the next 2.5 weeks, there's going to be no games at all. It's just a very
Yeah,
strange spell.
yeah, absolutely. And then obviously last week we had the Sociedad game. That was a shambles. Um, and I think the reason we played the lineup we did today is because of the postponements of the Premier League games. Had those Premier League games ran, I think we would have seen a lot more rotation today.
Yeah, had we been playing last Sunday and this Sunday coming,
Yeah.
we would have got the shambolic team that took to the field against Sociedad then tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, but fortunately, it was the more or less the strongest 11 tonight. What Ten Hag views to be the strongest 11.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Obviously, there's a difference of opinion between probably McTominay and Casemiro in terms of Ten Hag and the supporters, but
Yeah.
McTominay's been doing all right. I suppose the way I look at it is Ten Hag's stuck between picking a player who's playing well in his opinion and a
Mm.
player who costs £70 million, and what he did tonight was a compromise. One played the first half and one played the second half.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those. I'll tell you what. I do have slight concerns only because it gives me horrible flashbacks to Donny in his first couple of months. Because initially, when Donny came in, I think a few of us were wondering why we've got him. We knew he's a good player, but it wasn't probably the profile of player we needed at the time to slot into the first team. With this one, again, like nobody's questioning Casemiro's ability or talent, but we know what kind of midfielder Ten Hag wanted, and that isn't really the profile of Casemiro. So questions have to be asked on if he had anything to do with that transfer at all.
It's beginning to look like he didn't.
Yeah, yeah,
But you would think at some point in the near future he's going to call upon Casemiro. Look what the next game is. It's Manchester City at the Etihad.
mm.
I mean, like most fans would pick Casemiro in that game, but
Oh hell
surprise.
yes, yes. If there's one game that you wanted to start, it would be that one.
But then again, I wouldn't be surprised if Ten Hag picked McTominay in that game as well.
Mm.
But but I mean, us as supporters have been watching McTominay a lot longer than Ten Hag, and we know
Yeah,
that he's not going to play well throughout the whole season.
yeah. But
He's going to
that's
be a
the
drop
thing. I
off.
mean, listen, as long as he does a job for the manager, I don't mind him. So it's one of those.
Yeah, he's doing all right. So can't blame Ten Hag for not making any changes to his strongest 11. Although
Yeah,
I suppose Rashford would probably be in there ahead of Ronaldo if he
yeah,
was
yeah,
available.
yeah. Absolutely. And I think we're starting to see the wear and tear of Ronaldo as well.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, dreadful
Yeah,
game tonight. To be honest with you, I know he
yeah.
scored the penalty, but there's a real lack of mobility and a real lack of pace.
Yes, yes.
There's times like 5-10 years ago you would just pluck the ball out of the sky and volley it
Hmm.
into the corner. Now he needs so much time to control the ball that the defender just nips in and takes it off him.
Yeah, exactly. Just time is cruel. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can really do about that. Even last year, we knew he was a limited player. But these are things that the club has to do a better job of planning. You need to know what it is that you're signing, and if you bring in a limited player like that, you need to play to their strengths and what they're good at. And now it's a different style entirely, and obviously it's clear to see that doesn't really suit his game.
Yeah, he looks as if he's aged about 4 years over the summer.
Mm,
He's now starting to look like a footballer who's nearly 40. I'm afraid.
Yeah, I'll tell you what though, it's one of those where we have to credit him because most players we talk about aren't even playing at his age. So I think the last couple of years is just testament to who he is as a professional.
Yeah, I think Rooney is younger and he's currently managing in the MLS,
Yep,
so that's saying something.
and he looks considerably older too.
Yeah, although I think Ronaldo's dying that hair.
Yeah, probably.
Because I think in the training session last season when it was raining in Manchester, rather predictably,
Mm.
Ronaldo was complaining about the rain washing the hair down his face. Yeah, so Ronaldo for me is probably only going to score penalties and headers from now on. I don't
Yeah, pretty
see
much.
what else he's going to be able to do. Even when the opposition's team, their defense is in possession, you want to see our forwards pressing them, and Ronaldo just can't do that. I mean,
Yeah,
he's just kind of walking around and letting them play the ball out, and yeah, he that is why he's going to have a bench role when Rashford is fit.
yeah,
Um,
pretty much. I mean, and if Martial is ever fit, you'd suspect that he'd be third choice.
yeah, yeah, but then Martial, how many games is he going to be fit for this season?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I kind of somebody mentioned that this is the perfect time for him to get fit because we haven't got a game in a month, and I joked that a month is enough time for him to get fit and then injured again.
Yeah, he'll he'll play 45 minutes against City in the second half, and then
Yeah,
he'll be injured again in training, and then he'll not feature again for another month. That's just the way it seems to go with Martial. And it all was going so well in pre-season under Ten Hag. It looked like as if he's going to be rejuvenated at Old Trafford, but injuries have caught up with him again very, very quickly.
yeah.
So I wanted to pick up on what Ten Hag said about Varane tonight. He said, Robert Varane, there as the leader. He puts everyone in the right position. And it has been pointed out that we've only conceded 2 goals in 495 minutes, which that was games, that Varane has been on the pitch this season. We've won all 5 games that he's played and lost all 3 that he hasn't started. So
Yeah,
that Bud says it all, really, doesn't it?
absolutely. And yeah, look who's partnering him in those stats as well. I think that's the key.
Yeah, all defenses are built on partnerships. Uh,
Exactly. Listen, if we look at in this day and age, Matip Van Dijk, Rio Vidic, Terry Carvalho, all the great partnerships. Yeah, and we've got something special in these two. The only thing we need to do is wrap Raf in cotton wool and make sure he's injury free.
he has a tendency to get injured when he's playing for France, though, which I'm absolutely
Yeah.
terrified about. I've got to say, there's 2 players that are now absolutely crucial to us. I would say Varane and Ericsson. And Ericsson is excellent again tonight. Frankie, who I hear you say, he pulls all the strings in midfield, and if either of those 2 players were taken out, that would mean
Yes.
uh, Maguire would come into the defense
Mm.
in midfield. I mean, who's going to replace Christian Eriksen? There's no one really like him in the squad. So, what would we do?
Yeah, there really isn't. I mean, the closest thing I can think of is Donny, but for whatever reason, he's not playing. So I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's injured again as well. Donny van de Beek,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah.
Uh,
Like, I mean, there is no like for Ericsson, but that's the closest example I can think of in our current squad.
yeah, and if he's not going to play under Ten Hag, even when he was fit, he was just
Yeah,
coming on again as a late substitute. So,
yeah. I think that's a situation we're definitely going to address in January. I can see him leaving.
yeah, he has to. Maybe he'll go back to
Yeah,
Ajax.
yeah.
We want to keep our good relationship with Ajax going. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
because we
yeah.
want Jerry and Timber in the summer.
Yeah, yeah. Listen. It could work. It could work. Part exchange deal either for Timber or maybe even Alvarez or another player that's coming up now. Kenneth Taylor looks quite decent in their midfield.
Yeah, what you call the guy that scored against Liverpool the other night? He looks like a good player
Kudos,
for
he
them.
looks very good up
Yeah.
front, doesn't he? Yeah. Us messing around with the Anthony fee actually helped him out. We saved him a trip to a move to Everton.
Yeah. So what do you make of Anthony so far? Obviously, he got a goal on his debut against Arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Um,
still very early days, isn't it? I mean, he's an exciting player, but I mean, I do think we overpaid for him. I honestly think he's worth about half what we paid, but it is what it is. It's one of those.
yeah, he's definitely not an 85 million pound player at the moment.
No,
Anyway, yeah, against Arsenal, yes, there was a back heel, there was a goal, but I have
mm.
to say, in his two Europa League games thus far, he's not set the world alight. Um,
No, and I don't expect him to be honest.
yeah, we're just going to have to be very patient with Anthony. We're probably going to
Yeah,
see this season, at least, we're going to see a lot of nanny type performances where he's sublime
exactly.
1 minute and ridiculous the next.
Yeah, once every couple of games, I think he's going to look unbelievable, and we're going to be like, wow. Yeah, but again, I think it will come with time, especially when that front three is settled and fluid. So, whoever that striker may be, they need to come in. Or perhaps it is going to be Martial or someone, but we'll have to just wait and see. I definitely don't see it working with Ronaldo.
No, it is not a solution at all. And
No.
Ronaldo, he keeps losing the ball as well when it's played up to him. He's meant to be the one holding it up, and he gets
Yeah.
dispossessed. His passing can be very sloppy.
Yeah,
Just not
yeah.
easy.
Like you said, he just wants to be on the end of stuff, just pretty much headers and things.
Yeah, it's just it's sad to see the decline of Ronaldo,
Mm.
but that's
Like I'm
biology, I'm
sure you
afraid.
saw that delicious ball from Cancelo into Haaland yesterday. That's the kind of stuff that he wants.
Yeah, it is. But even tonight, there was some decent balls played into him.
Yeah.
I think McTominay won the ball in midfield, and he played a nice ball into Ronaldo.
Mm.
Ronaldo just couldn't get it down,
Yeah.
and then he got a wee nudge from the defender, and he went down looking the penalty, and it was
Yeah.
never a penalty in a
Yeah.
million years.
Yeah. I mean, there
Uh,
was contact, but the way he went down it was a bit crazy.
Theatrical, yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, we're just noticing that he needs that one touch too many. He needs extra time on the ball. It's just it's not looking good.
No, he'd be a brilliant player in Masters football now, but I mean,
Yeah,
it's a young man's game, and he's been
yeah,
exposed.
yeah. I think the next moves are the only places I could see him go now. Really are perhaps a return to Sporting Lisbon or a move to the MLS.
Yeah, he's going to have to accept now that that's his reality.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I
he's going
mean,
to have
listen,
to.
it's not a bad reality to have at the age of 37. Like I say, a lot of players don't make it to this age.
Yeah, but it's just because he's Ronaldo. It's
Mm,
hard for him to take, because he probably thought by looking after him so well he could prolong his career,
yeah.
which he has done. But he probably thought he could prolong it even longer.
Yeah, he's probably looking across at people like Ibra because I mean he's just a different animal, isn't he?
Well, you see, Ibra, he is playing in Serie A. It's
Mm,
it's a league of veterans. It's
yeah,
not as
and also with him though, he totally understands his role, so he understands
yeah
he's 40 plus and he's okay with being a
doesn't
bit part player.
Yep, doesn't play every game.
Nope.
You don't have the intensity or the speed of the Premier League.
Yeah.
But you see, if you're an aging player and you're struggling physically, the Premier
Mm,
League will just expose you.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, so Ronaldo's definitely going to be a bit part player this season. Might he even move on in January if he gets frustrated with the lack of
Yeah, yeah.
starts?
I can definitely see that happening. I think there's a possibility. Yeah. Once the World Cup's concluded, yeah, that wouldn't be a bad time to move him on.
I don't think Ten Hag will like that unless he can get in a replacement.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be Yeah, it would definitely be dependent on that.
I read something earlier that Ten Hag will be given 70 million to spend in January, apparently. So one player. That's what it usually costs us to get one player.
Yeah, yeah,
So Jadon Sancho, he got the opener against Liverpool, the winner against Leicester, the opener tonight, on a nice wee touch. He was given that personalised shin pads from the wee boy outside training, and he displayed that shin pad after he scored tonight in solidarity with the wee boy. So that's was fantastic to see, and it was a lovely team goal actually, lovely move,
yeah, yeah.
and
That's
well
one
finished
thing
off.
I am liking in the patterns of play that we've got. A lot of our goals now are team goals.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of that this season because
Yeah,
that's what we saw at Ajax under Ten Hag.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, and that's what it's all about.
yeah, fantastic and well taken goal as well from Sancho at the end of the move.
Hmm.
Um, the
And he was
penalty one,
unlucky as well not to get a second. It was a great clearance off the line by one of their centre backs.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it would be nice for him to get a brace, but not to
Yeah,
be tonight. Um, the penalty I thought was a bit soft when I first seen it, but then you
yeah,
do actually see Dallo does get kicked in the shins, so
yeah, yeah.
uh,
Again, it was just the way he went down. It was very theatrical.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
on the replay, there was definitely contact. It was a pen.
yeah. And there was only one man going to take that.
Oh, do you know what? I was hoping that he hits the back of the net. I was like, could you imagine if he didn't? Because there's already pressure mounting this season. He's not scored, and if he had missed that as well, oh
He would have been crushed had he missed that.
yeah, yeah,
Was it his 699th club career goal? I
yep,
think
that's the one. I was
so.
hoping that would give him a bit of confidence. But I really needed to score from open play.
So the winner against Manchester City is going to be his 700th club goal.
That would be amazing.
It's difficult to see him score in a game against an opponent of that quality, though. Given,
Yeah, yeah,
but you never know. Maybe
yeah.
it could he come on as a substitute and he score a header from a corner or something.
Hmm.
Who knows? Or a rebound or a penalty again. That's about it. And like I said earlier, that's all I can see him scoring now, really.
Yeah,
Um, uh, but anyway, um, Bruno Fernandes certainly has. Right, last season for the majority he was a disaster. A total shadow of the player he was when he first came to United. But I think he started to pick things up again now. What do you think?
yeah. I think because I think I got this one wrong in terms of the captain's armband because I questioned whether he would be suited to that, and I think he's taken to it well. I think we're seeing less tantrums now, and I think that that calming effect has to do with the fact that he's got the armband.
Yeah, maybe it will suit him mentally to be captain. Maybe that
Yeah,
brings out the best in him.
yeah. Again, it's a work in progress, though. I feel with him because he's not your typical player that plays in this sort of Ten Hag style. So I think
No,
he's making adjustments in his game.
yeah, he had to. I thought in the summer that he might be the odd man out
Mm,
because he doesn't like to. He doesn't keep the ball well. He likes to play
yeah,
Hollywood balls. He gives it
yeah.
away a lot. And I
Which is the
think,
polar opposite of what Ten Hag likes to do.
yeah, that's what I was concerned about. But he was either going to have to adopt or he
Mm,
was going to be out. And he's decided to
yeah.
adopt, it seems.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I mean it's easier for all parties because especially after the new contract they gave him, it's going to be difficult to shift him.
very, very difficult. Yeah, but
Yeah,
so far we don't want to shift him. He started the
yeah,
season off well. Um, yes. So I have to say, McTominay, Fernandez, and Ericsson was not the midfield I was expecting, but this is the midfield that Ten Hag favors at the moment now.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
It is what it is. As long as they keep the only issue I have is if anything happens to Ericsson, then we're in trouble.
yeah, that's what I said earlier. He's crucial.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I don't
and
think that.
that was one of my concerns when we first brought him in. I think you remember we were talking about it, and I said, if he's brought in as a rotational option, it's fantastic. If we have to rely on him week in week out, it could be problematic.
Yeah, but he's got a stroke of luck recently
Mm.
with all the postponements,
Yeah, yeah, it's
and
helped him out, and to credit to him as well because he's managed to make it through a lot more games than I thought he would have done.
yeah, I thought he'd be rested against Sociedad, and he wasn't. So,
Yeah, yeah,
yes, that's just the way things normally turn out, isn't it? A player who you got on a free turns out to be more important than the superstar signings,
yeah,
that cost 70, 80 million.
exactly. And look at Malasia as well. That should be an example. That should be a template we're using now when we're scouting and signing players in future. Just go and get ones that are young and hungry who aren't the finished product or nowhere near it, but have got potential. Just show a bit of heart and desire. And you don't have to, not everyone has to be a big money arrival.
Yeah, and Malassia's only there because of Ten Hag. This has nothing to
Yeah,
do with our scouting department. So what the hell
yeah,
do these scouts actually do? Hmm.
yeah. So this is the thing, but we can't keep relying on just Ten Hag knowledge. We need to build that network up. So hopefully they're working on that behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think Ten Hag's going to have to recruit a whole lot of Dutch scouts very very soon because these scouts are doing nothing. They,
Yeah,
they, they're watching Marco Arnautovic and Adrian Rabiot, for sake.
yeah, yeah. It's the scattergun approach which annoys me. It just it just seems to be no real planning. But yeah, we're gonna have to keep an eye on the Casemiro situation in the coming months.
Yeah, I just hope that does not turn out the way you were saying earlier, like
Yeah,
a Donny situation. You know.
yeah, because I just get an eerie feeling. Because initially I was very confident, even in the first couple of months, I thought, oh, you know what? No, give him time. He's gonna settle. He's just, they're just slowly introducing him. And then by January, when he was still on the bench, I was like, oh, this is a bit weird.
Yeah, I think Donny still only made two Premier League starts for Man U. That's crazy.
Yes, mental, mental. So yeah, so that's my only concern, and especially because of the age of the player as well. Like he's not one of those that you can just bed in slowly. He really needs to hit the ground running. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll wait and see how it goes.
Mm,
You'd expect him to become part of the starting 11 at some stage this autumn.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, because we've got a short window to use the best out of him now. Like the next 2 years are pivotal, and then he's inevitably going to decline, and then you need to line up a Declan Rice or someone else.
Yeah, if what we're relying on really is McTominay to have a bad game, and that hasn't really happened since
Yeah,
Casemiro
to be
joined.
honest, in terms of that, I don't mind that. I'm not, as long as my players have a good game, I'm happy. So if
Well, yeah,
Scotty,
yeah,
if that's what, if Scotty, uses that as motivation to step his game up, then I'm happy with that.
yeah. I'll rephrase that. Casemiro is relying on McTominay to have a bad game. We're
Yeah,
not. We're just happy with
yeah,
any.
yeah. I'm not wishing on Scotty's downfall.
Yeah, we're happy with as long as United are winning. We don't care who's playing. You know.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's about.
Okay, I'll just do a quick rundown of the player ratings. David De Gea has to be the average six. Really, not really much to do.
Oh,
Um,
on De Gea, there was a little bit of a mix-up with him and Dallo in the first half. I thought it was absolutely shambolic. It was a terrible ball, and then the way De Gea ran after it. Do you remember that?
oh yes,
Yeah,
yes, yeah,
yeah, yeah. That could have been disastrous.
yeah. I'm not sure what was happening there.
Yeah, yeah. The ball was terrible, and then De Gea, yeah, yeah, just unnecessary pressure.
Yeah, and he nearly got closed down by a sheriff attacker in that
Yeah,
situation.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, got away with it. So I'll just
Mm,
give him a six. So Dallo six for me. Um, V- Varane a seven. Martinez a seven. Malacia a six. McTominay a six. Ericsson an eight. Fernandez a six. Jaden a seven. Anthony, I would say a
six,
five.
a 5, 6. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And Ronaldo, I'm afraid. Well, he scored a penalty, so I'll give him a five. But if he hadn't have scored that penalty, it'd have been a three probably.
Yeah.
Um, Casemiro, yeah, he's an absolute bull, isn't he? We certainly
Mm,
seen um, the Casemiro that we saw at Real Madrid in the second half. He's putting
hmm.
himself about quite a bit, and he's winning tackles and
Yeah,
giving
and
away fouls.
he wouldn't have been happy with his performance at Sociedad as well. So I think that put a little battery in his back.
Yeah. So I'll give him a six as well. And the rest of the substitutions weren't really on that long. Um, yeah. I read a stat that Maguire had 100% pass completion in his appearance tonight. You know,
He played for how long? Like 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Yeah,
I
that's
thought
some
it was a
going for
bit of
him.
a I thought it was a bit of a random substitution to be fair. I was like, oh, why is he coming on in like the 89th minute?
Yeah, it was him and Garnacho, wasn't it, at that time?
Yeah.
Yeah, Elanga come on a bit earlier than that for Ronaldo. Um, yeah, so Alanga's another one. He's very much a squad player now, isn't he?
Yeah,
With
yeah. I mean, I think he was always a squad player. I just think for whatever reason, Ralph really liked him when he gave him a prolonged
he did,
run in the team last season.
yeah, and he wasn't worthy of it in the end because
No,
he still hasn't scored a goal since February. You know,
yeah.
it's not good enough at this level.
Mm.
Um, Fred didn't get a look in tonight. Things are really turned for the worst for Fred at Old Trafford. He's becoming a bit of a
Mm.
bit part player now, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's at that age as well where honestly, we should be thinking about moving him on.
Yeah, but I've heard that see all the players in the summer that are out of contract but have those 1 year extensions.
Yes.
They're all being triggered apparently. All those
Oh,
extensions.
yeah. So I had a quick glance at that list, and there were one or two that definitely concerned me.
De
One,
Gea.
yes, that was the main one. 375 grand a week. It makes absolutely no sense to me to trigger that option. We've discussed how the game's moved on and how, he's a dying breed of goalkeeper. And then to be on those wages as well, it makes no sense to me. Best thing to do would be to let him run that down and let him leave. Give him his flowers. He's been a wonderful servant to us. And move on.
Yeah, we should be releasing Ronaldo and De Gea in the summer, and
Yes,
you
both
would
of them.
save about 800,000 worth of wages there
Yeah,
immediately.
and Luke Shaw as well is another one. He's on 150 grand a week. On those wages, I would not renew. I would, uh, if by any chance you wanted to keep him for an additional year, maybe you go back and be like, listen, Luke, we can offer you 75, and even that's being generous.
Yeah, yeah, it's just the typical club policy of
Yeah,
triggering the 1 year extension so that if a buyer comes in for the
yeah.
player, they can get a fee for that player.
Yeah, but this is the nonsense though, because if they're on high wages, then nobody's going to come in for the player. You're still going to take a loss. You're only
Yeah,
protecting value if it makes sense financially. So yeah,
yeah.
it's a weird one.
Hence, in the summer transfer window, we did not sell a single player that was part of the first team squad last season.
Yep, yep.
Not one.
Shocking. It's absolutely shocking when you actually read the stats as well. Like in terms of net spend as well, we have the worst net spend simply because we don't sell players.
Yeah, and we, we sold James Garner and Pereira to raise a very moderate sum of money.
Yeah, well, the Pereira one I was quite happy about. I was quite surprised that we got as much as we did. The Gardner one pissed me off. I
Yeah,
just thought that was piss. That was really poor business. That,
yeah, it really was. Um,
especially in this current market where the likes of Anthony Gordon are getting 60 million pounds turned down for them, and we hear about this English tax all the time. Well, apparently that doesn't apply to United players. The smart thing would have been, even if you wanted to go and have first team football, why not loan him out, similar to how Chelsea did with Conor Gallagher to Crystal Palace last season? And if he has half the impact of that, say, then he comes back and you reassess the situation. And if you still want to sell him, you slap 40 million on him and see what happens.
well, obviously we were struggling to sell any of the players that were part of the first team last season, so somebody had to go to raise money. But then look at it this way: he's not on high wages. And what was the
Nope.
transfer fee? 9 million plus add-ons.
Nine. Yeah, yeah. It wasn't. Yeah, initially they reported 15 million, but that's yeah. It was 9 million initially up front, and then the rest in add-ons. It doesn't make sense to me.
But Ten Hag must have sanctioned this, maybe
Yeah,
because he rates Zidane Iqbal more. Could that be it?
I think it might also just be down to Garner himself. I think he felt that it was time for him to move on, and he probably didn't want to wait around.
Yeah. Sad though. He'd been in the club since he was 7 years old and he wasn't
Yeah,
given a proper chance despite all the hype around him.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And then especially now as well, you bring in one of the best DMs in the world in Casemiro. Well, who better to understudy him than our very own DM who's come up through the academy, who's 22 years old or 21, I think.
yeah, definitely, but that's not how it's worked
Ah,
out. But
yeah,
so Luke Shaw did make an appearance tonight
mm,
for Diogo Dallo for
which
20
was a bit
minutes.
random in itself.
Yes, yeah. Malasaya going to right back.
Yeah,
yeah, I couldn't. Obviously, I'd forgot that Malassi had moved to right back, and I seen
Mm.
this player, this very small player, coming forward, taking around people on the right hand side. And I was thinking, who is that? Who is that there right there? Because like I just because obviously he doesn't look the same as Dallo, so it was
Yeah,
obvious it
yeah.
wasn't him. So I was like, who is that?
Yeah, it was quite funny because initially, as the substitution was happening, I was like, "No, we can't be sticking Luke on the right." But yeah, yeah, interesting. But how refreshing is it though to see Malacia just, just his enthusiasm. He's always smiling as well. It's just, yeah, I like it.
Yeah, yeah. Like we said earlier, we need to pick up more guys like
Players
that.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, players on the cheap who are actually
Hmm.
very good value,
Yep.
uh,
Yep.
and
And then
young,
with those
hungry players.
players, with those players as well, when you're spending moderately, you don't really take a loss. Even if it doesn't work out, you can still recoup the majority of the fee as well. So it's fine.
Yeah, yeah. It wouldn't like, even in the case of Daniel James, they took a punt on him and they ended up making a profit because
Yeah,
the transfer fee they paid for him wasn't very high.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. That is
um,
actually quite shocking. I think him and Daily Blind are the only players since post Fergie that we've actually sold on at a profit.
yeah, it's a pathetic stat, really.
Yeah.
Um, So I just wanted to ask you about something. I'm not really an England fan, obviously, but
Mm.
can you believe that Gareth Southgate
you,
has
you,
called Maguire and Shaw into the
you
England
know
squad?
what? You know what? Because it's Gareth, I can believe it. I had a feeling he would. He's got a thing for his favourites, Gareth, irrespective of form.
Was he not the one who said a few seasons back that he picks players on form?
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I don't understand it, but I'll tell you what. If those players are going to get game time and get fit, I'd rather they do it for England than for us.
Yeah, there's there's some people I've heard who obviously would prefer England not to win, who say they're quite happy for Maguire and Shaw to be in the England squad.
Yeah, no, because yeah, I wasn't happy with what I saw last week, and it was just worrying. Our backups just aren't equipped to deal with anything, so it's going to be really tricky on how the further we get into the season. Because obviously, I think we talked about Europa being a realistic target, but I think we might have to pick and choose.
Yeah, um, yeah, we'll see where we are in March, I suppose, and
Yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
think also the way the Champions League is shaping up as well, there might be a few surprise teams that drop down to the Europa. The way it's going.
mm, yeah, and that's important because if we finish second in the group, we're going to have to play a
Yes,
dropout from the Champions League
yes,
in the round of
yeah,
32.
yeah. I
Whereas
mean,
if
I'm
we,
still fairly confident that we can win this group, and we should win this group.
but does that not mean we have to go to Sociedad and win or San
Yeah,
Sebastian?
yeah, yeah, yeah. We need to beat them.
Because I think both teams are going to take maximum points from
Mm,
the four games against Sheriff and the Cyprus champions.
yeah,
Um, I don't see either United or Real Sociedad dropping points in those games. So effectively, we have to go to San Sebastian and win 2-0 or 3-1.
yeah, yeah. It comes down to that game, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, today I don't know about you, but I had flashbacks to when we played Istanbul Başakşehir. I had those kind of vibes from today's game, with how lethargic we were. Yeah, luckily it turned out all right today. But yeah, that's what it reminded me of today.
Well, you see, Maguire and Lindelof weren't playing at the back, so the long ball over the top didn't defeat us.
Yeah, yeah, but
There
yeah,
was
it was that kind of lethargic. I don't know. There was just no sense of urgency.
there was um I think Tuanzebe was playing in that game as well. He was poor that night.
Mm,
In that, but yeah, there was a few occasions where Sheriff nearly got in behind us, but
yeah,
Varane was perfectly positioned to intercept the cross with a header. So
hmm,
I seen him do that a few times. So that's something that Maguire and Lindelof don't have is Varane's positional play.
yeah,
You can't teach that. So that's a massive positive. And it's not as if Varane only performed tonight against substandard opposition. He was doing this against Liverpool and Arsenal as well.
Mm,
So he's a world class defender. But what we want to see is like Casemiro, Ronaldo, and Varane have they must have about 40 medals between them from their time at Real Madrid. But we want to see them add more medals before the end of their careers, and that's what's important to us. Um,
absolutely.
we don't want to just see them have good games against top teams. We want to see them win trophies at United. Um, in addition to the trophies at Real Madrid, because as everyone knows, when's the last time he won a trophy? 2017 or something.
17, yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was Jose leading
it's
us to the Europa.
it's becoming it's getting further and further away, isn't it?
Yep.
And between 1968 and 1977, that's 9 years. We went without winning a trophy. We don't want to get to that stage again. We want to get
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
but it is
And we have
possible.
got to the odd final, but it's just that we've lost the last couple of finals we've gotten to.
Yeah, we have. Yeah,
Villarreal in the Europa, Chelsea in 2018 in the FA Cup. That was a terrible final. That was such a terrible game.
was that when Phil Jones took down Eden Hazard in the box?
Yeah, it was the Hazard penalty. It was the Hazard penalty.
Yeah. But it is possible that Ten Hag could pick up a domestic cup or Europa League this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Depending on how it all plays out, but I do think that January transfer window this season is going to be quite pivotal.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, because if we could get in a striker
Yeah.
that's top quality in that
Mm.
window, it will be difficult. But there has
Yeah.
been talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, Liverpool signed Luis Suarez in January, so
Yeah, yeah.
it
I
can be
mean,
done.
listen. Yeah, there's deals to be struck, and obviously the World Cup's going to play a big part as well. And I mean, I don't know how much I would put into this, but there's always players that have breakout tournaments.
Yeah,
I know they've gone on to have mixed success afterwards, but there's always a few gems that pop up. So perhaps that could open our eyes as well to some business.
yeah, it certainly could. I just don't want to make the mistake of signing a player off the back of a World Cup like Cleberson or
Yeah, El Hadj Diouf comes to mind.
oh, thankfully that wasn't us.
Yeah, well, that was
Um,
thankfully that wasn't us, but yeah, I remember at that time they spent about 11 million on him, which is quite a significant amount of money. And
yeah,
oh, what a cretin he turned out to be, uh, both on and off the field. um,
yeah,
yeah,
terrible individual.
yeah. Karl Poborski, I think we signed him on the back of Euros. Unfortunately, we should have gone for we were for the wrong check, didn't we? Should have gone for Nedved.
Yeah, definitely. Was Poborski the one that scored that amazing lob in that tournament in
Yeah,
'96?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, with his wrong long hair.
yeah, yeah. We, but there can be hidden gems at
Yeah,
World Cups that are then discovered by the world. So, but then I don't trust our scouts. It's going to be simply down to Ten Hag to pluck some talent out of thin air.
yeah. I'm just hoping that some of the connections we have now, like that, leads to it. So the fact that we've got a Casemiro and we could, the fact that we've got a Martinez, maybe that gives us a slight advantage when looking at Brazilian and Argentine players.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like now United fans are going to be probably supporting Brazil in this tournament, given all the Brazilian
Perhaps,
talent.
perhaps.
Well,
Um,
or at least it'll be people's second team if
yeah,
they're English or Welsh.
yeah. And in terms of goalkeepers as well, I've been keeping an eye on Porto's goalkeeper. He looks quite interesting. He's only 22 years old. Goes by Diogo Costa. He looks an interesting prospect.
Right. Okay. I think we would probably sign a keeper that's completely unknown, who's very good with his feet and is a good shot
Mm.
stopper. I think that's what we'll do. Someone that we're not really expecting. I mean, Allison and Ederson weren't big names when they were recruited by Liverpool and
No,
City.
no, no, they weren't. Well, Allison, I mean, he kind of made a name for himself at Roma, but even that, it was yeah,
Yeah, he was still relatively unknown.
yeah, yeah,
There has been links though with the Leeds goalkeeper. Ten Hag is supposedly a
yeah.
fan of him. What do you make of that?
It's interesting that one because profile wise, he does fit. but then I've seen him have some absolute shockers for Leeds.
Yeah.
Like I know that shot stopping isn't everything, but some of the stuff that this guy fumbles, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, Malia, is that what you call him? Yeah.
Yeah, Melier, that's the one. Yeah, he's very young though. I think he's only about 21.
Yeah,
Um,
21, yeah.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
obviously very good with his feet, but
yeah,
he can't be dropping clangers.
yeah. That's what it is. Yeah, if you can have a look at the have a look at this guy Diogo Costa from Porto.
It's
He,
very close to Diego Costa,
yeah,
who's back, by the way, in the Premier League.
yeah, that's gonna be interesting at Wolves.
He's
God.
going to ruffle a few feathers.
Yep.
So, interesting thing to note is that so Fred didn't play any minutes tonight. Neither did Victor Lindelof. Is that a sign of things to come?
I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
I can't wait till the January transfer window rolls around. I mean, it's one of those where we're waiting, but then because of the sheer incompetence of our club, we're going to get there and we're going to be frustrated because they're not doing anything. Ah,
I know. I'm not ashamed to admit that the we always have to have two goalkeepers on the bench for some reason, and this is not this is not exclusive to Ten Hag. This has been going on for ages.
yeah. It's a real pet peeve of mine. I don't understand. I don't understand.
But the third goalkeeper tonight, I have no idea who he is. So because I think Dubravka is injured, so
Yeah.
you selected a goalkeeper called Redick Vidic. I've never heard of this guy. It's very odd. What is the need for two goalkeepers on the bench?
Yeah. I'll never understand.
Yeah, there's bound to be an outfield player who went on the trip who wasn't on the bench, or someone that they could have brought with them.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Um, yeah, it's a very odd situation. I mean, why do even we seem to have so many goalkeepers on the books? You know, we have
Mhm.
a few of them loaned out, and then we have four at the club, and then we have Lee Grant. It just seems to be a never-ending list of goalkeepers. I know Lee Grant
Yeah.
is away now, but what was he even doing there? You know, I just I'm right now.
Putting cones out and encouraging people, as far as I know.
Yeah,
It's not a bad
um,
living. Not a bad living.
I know, and now it seems as if Redick Vidic has become the new Lee Grant.
Mm.
He's just appeared out of nowhere to become the third goalkeeper in the matchday squad. I don't get it. I mean, have this is a Kovac is on loan now, and Henderson's on loan, obviously. I mean, how many goalkeepers? What do you call him? Nathan Bishop,
Nathan
I think
Bishop,
is
yeah,
yeah.
he's on loan. Yeah,
So that's one, two, three, four,
yeah,
five. So four goalkeepers at the club and three out
yeah.
on loan. That's
Uh
insane.
huh. I'll tell you what. We're gonna have to wait and see what happens with Dean Henderson. Because I think there's a possibility that he might come back. You know.
Could be, could happen.
Yeah.
His interview was a bit tasty, where he was very annoyed with the broken promises.
Yeah. It was. It kind of confused me a little bit because that's the kind of interview you give if there was an obligation to buy.
Yeah,
Like, I'm
but
not sure if you realize there's no option to buy. Like, you are coming back here, Dean.
yeah, he was talking about Man United in the past tense. You know, as
Yeah,
if
yeah.
yeah,
And the sheer arrogance as well. Oh, I didn't want Ten Hag to see me play.
because he would pick me.
Yeah. Because then I would have ended up staying. What is that?
I
Not the
know,
point. What kind of?
I know.
Is,
What he means is
well, he basically didn't want to be back up, basically. But
yeah,
then, if he was so good in training, surely you back yourself to start, right?
yeah. And did Ten Hag not want to bring him to Ajax in January? So
Mm,
potentially he's already a bit of a fan. So
yeah,
if he had done really well in pre-season, Ten Hag might have made him number one. But then
yeah.
he's probably looking at the point of view that he was promised the number one spot last
And it
summer.
didn't. Yeah, and it
It
didn't
didn't happen.
happen, and he didn't want to go through that again. Yeah,
Yeah,
which is fair enough. But then the comments, I mean, what could we say? But
yeah.
it's just what happens. A lot of our players just like giving interviews.
There's some United fans who believe that he's nothing more than just a decent Premier League goalkeeper and not worthy of
Yeah,
being his number one.
yeah.
What do you think? Do you think he has a higher ceiling than that?
No, that's pretty much where I stand. I think it was a similar situation back. when we had Van der Sar and Ben Foster. There were certain sections that were, calling for Ben Foster to get a run, and I think that just comes from homegrown and domestic bias, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I remember the start of that 2009-10 season when Van der Sar was injured and Ben
Yeah.
Foster basically played a whole lot of games,
Mm.
and then he had uh, he had a few blunders, but the one that stands out for me is that Craig Bellamy goal for Manchester
Ah,
City. That
yeah.
was terrible. Thankfully, we scored in the 100th minute of stoppage time. Michael
Yeah.
Owen to win that game, but
Yeah.
Ben Foster had a shocker that day.
Yeah.
Um,
I still blame Rio Ferdinand for that. He should have cut that out. Yeah.
yeah, that there kind of exposed Bellamy's
Yeah.
pace exposed Ferdinand there. He was
Mm,
starting to age a wee bit at that point,
mm,
and Craig Bellamy is a lightning quick, and he wasn't able to catch up with him. But
yeah.
yeah, I don't know what Foster was doing in that situation, but yeah, I would say that Dean Henderson is a wee bit better than
Yeah.
Ben
I mean,
Foster.
I
Yeah,
definitely think he's a Premier League worthy goalkeeper, but just, sort of mid-table and below. Well, I say
yeah,
mid-table as if we're not kind of mid-table.
yeah. I don't,
It's a weird one. One thing I forgot to ask you. What did you make of Martial's comments this week?
oh yes, yes. I saw that.
Yeah,
He
because
obviously,
our lot they love an interview, don't they? Oh, they love giving an
yeah.
interview.
I think it was with France football, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
He wasn't happy with Solskjaer. What was happened again? He played when he was injured for Solskjaer. He said the
mm,
coach needed me, and then he eventually got an injury that kept him out for 4 months. And then when he came back, Solskjaer didn't select him at all, so he was a
yeah,
bit peeved with that. And he didn't like the situation where he had to give up his shirt for
yeah,
Zlatan. We all knew at the time that he wasn't going to be pleased with that. But
yeah,
he was given the old line that, oh, why don't you take Ryan Giggs' shirt number 11? He's all, I don't want number 11. I want to be number 9. Like that situation, we can say, ah, stop crying. You're in switch from 9 to 11. Who cares? But the situation where I actually had sympathy for him is where he played through injury for the coach, and
yeah.
then when he had a serious injury and was out for 4 months, when he came back, then the coach wanted nothing to do with him. Basically, I can
Mm.
sympathize with him there. So, what was your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's for me, I grew up in an era where I didn't really like to listen to what these players had to say. So I always like to keep things in house. I feel like when Fergie was in charge, we never used to get all these interviews and things, but I understand the times are changing and whatnot, and everyone has an opinion now. Um, I mean, he gave an honest assessment from his point of view. So what can I really say? Um, One or two things that did stand out to me with regards to playing through injury. I mean, the club are going to ask you to do things. That doesn't mean that you have to do them. Like, they're always going to put the interest of the team first. But if you felt so strongly about injuries and whatnot, you should have spoken up. Because at the end of the day, it's your career, right? So you need to take some responsibility. For example, Ian Robben, great player. Anytime he felt a light niggle, he would just, regardless of what the medical team said, what anyone said, he would just rule himself out and be like, "Listen, I don't feel good until I'm 100%. I'm not coming back."
Yeah, definitely. And Roy Keane said that Van Nistelrooy would never play
Yeah,
if he had a slight injury, because he
yeah.
always wanted to, protect himself and
Mm, and
prolong his career.
and with Rude, you can't blame him because an ACL, psychologically, the impact that has on a player. And you'll remember as well, we were supposed to sign him the year before, and he failed the medical, and he fell over during the medical and started screaming the place down. So the trauma of overcoming something like that is very serious. So yeah, I can totally understand if you have a slight niggle and you want to just wait it out, that's totally fine. Yeah, you can't have it both ways basically. So I think some level of responsibility needs to come into it from the player where they just speak up and be like, listen, I need to manage my situation.
Yeah, and Keane himself was the type of player that would have played through injury, but
Yeah,
when he retired, he regretted that. He said he
yeah,
should have taken a leaf out of Van Nistelrooy's book and
Yes.
protected himself. But yeah, Martial also said that he couldn't even get into a sprint when he
Mm.
was playing injured.
And
So
the thing is, we saw it as well, Carl. We saw it in the last couple of years where we've looked at him and we're like, oh, that electric pace is really dropped off, hasn't it? Like his acceleration really slowed down to the player that first arrived on the scene for us.
you see, this is the thing, when we're watching a game and we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, we
Mm,
don't know who's playing
hmm
through injury or what has happened in their personal life,
Yeah,
and we're getting at them going, "You're absolutely rubbish. You shouldn't be
yeah,
paid this week,"
yeah.
but we don't know what's going on behind closed doors or
Yeah, exactly. And I'll tell you what, Ollie had a history of this as well. Like, we saw Pogba stumble around against Rochdale and not be taken off. We saw Rashford barely be able to walk against Villarreal in the Europa final, and he wasn't taken off. Like, so there, yeah, these things happen, and yeah, it's unfortunate. And then with regards to his Jose thing, obviously, yeah, I can understand you being annoyed at the shirt thing. And he said something about, I was doing well in the team, but then Alexis Sanchez came. That's just part and part of football. Whoever the manager is, they're gonna make chop and change and make changes. They're gonna bring in their own personnel. You just have to buck up and get on with it.
yeah. Um, if Sanchez comes into the club, he should see that as a challenge. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, you
don't.
can't just let your head drop, like, because all managers are going to do that. Not everyone's going to favor you. Not everyone's going to play you in your favorite position. It's up to you to prove to them that they should be picking you.
Yeah, a footballer with a winning mentality. If he was in a situation where he's playing well in his position, he's scoring goals,
Yeah,
and then a new player comes in January and
yeah,
plays in his position, he would say, "Well, there's no way this guy's taking my place."
yeah.
You
That's
know?
the thing. Like, this, absolutely. There's definitely certain elements that I agree with, and I have sympathy towards. But some of it as well, it's just part and part of football, isn't it? It's just part of the parcel. You just need to get on with it.
Some of the interview was just a prima donna crying,
Mm,
and but the bit about him playing through injury, I thought
yeah,
that was on Solskjaer. No, not him.
yeah, yeah.
Or what, and the way he was treated in that situation, he
Mm,
played through injury for the coach, and then he was dropped completely when
yeah,
he came back from a serious injury. I didn't sympathizing with him there, but like you say, he should have. He's responsible for his own career, and he should have said
yeah.
no to Solskjaer if he was injured.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely, absolutely. Because that's the thing.
but I do respect players who play through injury.
Mm.
Someone who wants to put their body on the line like that. As supporters, we're always thankful when
And
players
it's
do
one of
that.
those things that we take for granted as well as fans. Like, one injury is all it takes, and these guys' careers, it's over. It could be over.
Yeah, and it's a very short career as well. So
Absolutely, absolutely. I think back to players like Dean Ashton, for example, who had to retire. I think he was about 26 or 27 when he retired, very very early on, and he was a decent striker in the Premier League. And overnight, your life's changed.
yeah, there's no guarantees that you'll get a coaching job or a punditry job either.
Yeah, that's it. And those spaces are just so limited anyway. When you look at the amount of professional footballers.
Yeah, um, yeah. Martial should have said if he's being asked to continually play through injury, he should have said no. Even though I respect the fact that he decided to play through injury for the
Mm,
club, for his own career, he should have said no if that was how he
yeah,
felt about it.
yeah, and we've
Um,
seen it before as well with young players who play a lot when they're young, and the effect it has. The likes of your Michael Owens. Uh,
yeah, and Rashford could become that as well because
yeah,
he's played through injury quite a lot. Thankfully, he's not doing it at the moment. But
yeah, yeah.
under Solskjaer, he was just run into the ground. Um, so what?
Even a Wayne Rooney, I'd say. Yeah, Rooney as well. He was running to the ground.
Yeah. Solskjaer just wanted to pick the same 11 players in every single game,
Mm,
no matter if they were out of form or injured. He just wanted to
hmm
pick the same team, and anyone else was just not involved. And then he got the situation where players were told that they were going to get chances, like Donny and Lingard.
They
Um,
were lied to.
And lied to, yeah.
They were just blatantly lied to. It was
And
just
then we
yeah,
had situations at Leicester last season
yeah,
where Maguire had been out injured, even missed two England games. So the first game after international break was Leicester away. Maguire starts, even though he's been out for a while. He's half fit instead of just playing Bailly, who was fit. And Bailly done it. I think he done an interview as well recently where he mentioned that, and he was extremely teased off with. He even claimed that there was English bias with coaches in the Premier League, that they favoured England players
yeah.
at United anyway. Um, that could have been the case with Solskjaer, but I don't think that's the case at the moment now.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, I can understand Bailly's frustrations as well, because there was points last season where I was thinking, look, Maguire and Lindelof are woefully out of form.
yeah.
Why doesn't Bailly not just get a chance? But
Absolutely, because I think yeah, because we look at his injury record, but there was a lot of time last season where he wasn't actually injured. He was fit, he just wasn't getting a chance.
yeah, there's people who have been pointing to his, amount of games that he's missed for United, but then
Yeah.
you have to factor in the amount of games that he wasn't selected either,
Hmm.
when he was fit. And last season in particular, I don't think he was injured at all last season.
No, no,
So
yeah, especially under Ralph. Under Ralph, it was really shocking they didn't get a chance.
yeah, and there's another player we've let go for virtually nothing.
Yeah,
I mean, so if they qualify for the Champions League, or if he meets an appearance threshold,
yeah,
they only have to pay €6 million to sign him. I
yep.
mean, United are
Uh,
just
yeah,
so
so
bad at selling
it's
players.
I think yeah, it was what 2 million euros up front, and then the obligation to buy comes into effect if yeah, if that criteria is met. And I think it's either 40 or 50% of games he has to play. And then it becomes an obligation for 6 million euros. So what's that in total? Eight. So that's in euros as well. It's probably about 5-6 million.
Yeah, and we paid 30 for him.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
really bad business again.
yeah. But I'll
Um,
tell you what. I mean, that it's better than letting him go for free, I suppose.
yeah, it is. But if he was at Liverpool or City, they'd probably get 20, 30 million for him.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
15 to 20 minimum, minimum.
Yeah. So we just noticed there that Real Sociedad beat Umana
Two
two
two one,
1.
wasn't it? Yeah, it was 2-1 to them.
Not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
So is there potential for Umana in the reverse game? Is there potential for Umana to maybe get a point there?
That is a team I know absolutely nothing about. I had to Google them when the draw was out.
Yeah, the only thing I know about them is that Neil Lennon is their
Yeah,
coach.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
It was
but
really when I heard the full name and I heard Nicosia, that's when I figured out where they're from.
yeah, yeah, because there must be another team in that city that's played in the
Yeah,
Champions League,
yeah.
because it's a familiar.
There's Apoel, I think. There's Apoel Nicosia as well. They're from
Yeah,
there.
that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if Sociedad are only narrowly beating them at home,
Mm,
then it gives me some hope for the away league. Because
yeah.
we ideally need Sociedad to drop points somewhere, because we don't want to go to that game, the last group game, needing to beat them by two clear goals in San Sebastian. It wouldn't be an
Yeah.
ideal scenario. And we could potentially have to go out there and play our full team, and we could have, we could be playing Chelsea the game before and Tottenham the game after, and having to go out there and play our
Mm,
full team. That wouldn't be ideal, like, would it?
yeah. I mean, I did have a quick look at our fixture rundown from Man City onwards. And yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I'm annoyed now that we missed those Palace and Leeds games. I would have
Yeah.
liked to have got
Yeah.
those 6 points on the board.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate because it kills momentum as well, you know.
It
And
has, yeah.
it really needed those games before you play a Man City. Going into that Man City game cold, I don't like it.
No, they're playing well at the moment, Man City.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you make of the rumors about it being a tug of war between Liverpool and United over Jude Bellingham?
Whew,
Of course, we'd love to win that war,
oh
and
yeah,
but
yeah.
I think the minimum requirement is for us to qualify for the Champions League next season to even think about making that happen.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been told that they have been. Yeah, I mean, Liverpool, we know clearly are interested. They've been interested for a while. Um, I'm hoping well, I'm definitely hoping that doesn't happen. So, if not us, then probably Real Madrid. I reckon Real Madrid are probably in a very good position because they've pretty much well, they've got Camavinga and Chouameni in there as well. So Bellingham and they're set for the next decade, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah. But I suppose the advantage for the English teams is that he is English. So, um, yeah, that kind of gives. So if he was Spanish or Portuguese
Yeah,
or
but
South
I think
American,
yeah, but
he go to Madrid,
he's
wouldn't he?
he's so young that I think he probably thinks, you know what, I can go to Spain and then still come back to the Premier League by the time I'm in
Yeah,
my mid-20s.
yeah. He is just phenomenal talent, isn't he?
Yeah.
When he broke through at Birmingham as a 16-year
Yeah.
old, some people probably thought, ah, they're just overhyping him, but they
Mm,
weren't. No, they
yeah.
were absolutely spot on. I think
Yeah.
even Harry Redknapp said I think he was at Birmingham at one point, and I'm not sure if he overlapped with Bynum during his time there, but he when all the hype started to happen around Bynum before he moved to Dortmund,
Mm,
Harry Redknapp was saying this guy is a generational talent,
yeah.
and he was right about that. Phenomenal player. And if he went to Liverpool, it'd be heartbreaking. And if he went to United, it would be absolutely ecstatic.
Yeah.
That'd be a game changer.
That would be a huge piece. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, we're
And
so far off of it now that I'm not even entertaining
you
the
know,
thought really.
but I have to say, he's one of those players, one of the very few players in Europe where it wouldn't even matter what you paid for him. He
Yeah.
just pay whatever it takes, and
Yeah,
would
that's
be
one of the, yeah, see, yeah, that's the thing as well. Obviously, like I'm an advocate for good business, but if you are gonna overpay, it's okay sometimes to overpay for the right player. And then the things you need to look out for are the ceiling, the age, and all of that stuff. So when you factor in all of those things, it works out.
and the age is perfect.
Yeah.
Uh, and even the level he's at the minute is phenomenal. But he could go up through many more gears.
That's the truly frightening thing about it. The fact that the level he's playing at now is so very high, and he's got levels to go up.
Yeah, but
He's not even done developing and growing yet.
no, but players at that level, how often do United ever get those players? I mean, we had a real chance of getting Holland. I know the history with Man City and Roy Keane
Yeah,
and all that, but
yeah,
when you have a Norwegian manager who had coached him before, that was a
yeah.
real chance to get him on the cheap, and he
That
blew
was
that too.
they blew it. They blew it. And then even that, like it was the haggling over the release clause and stuff. But the way Dortmund broke it down is kind of perfect, if you ask me, because Dortmund were like, "Listen, we bought him for 20 million. Yes, there's a release clause of 51, but we're still up on the deal.
Yeah,
When you think about it, we get to use him for 2 years, whatever, get service out of him, and we get to sell him on at a profit." And then I think for United, it was a mistake where it's a thing where you should have just done it anyway and been like, listen, once the player's here, depending on what you're building, perhaps it's easier to convince him to sign an extension or to get rid of that clause or to convince him that this is where he belongs
yeah, and
instead of
we
being initially put off by that clause and Mino Raiola. Because that's the other thing as well. Like in life and in business, you're going to have to work with people that you don't particularly like.
yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, and we could have got. We were in for buying him when he was leaving Birmingham as well, but
Yeah, yeah,
he knew full well that
yeah.
United were not going to put him in the first team at that point. So he
And
went.
this is the other thing, like, Dortmund have spent years establishing themselves, giving them that reputation of being a destination that's the premier destination for young players to go and develop.
Yeah, they're very much like Ajax. They're a halfway house,
Yeah,
really, aren't they?
yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and and yeah, I remember back in the day before that, Wenger used to be the master at this in the Premier League, which is why even when on field we were the better team, Aaron Ramsey chose them because at that time, coming out of Cardiff, he thought that's the place that's going to help me develop as a footballer.
yeah, yeah. But in hindsight, he just would have been another injury-prone player at United, and we had enough of
Well, yeah, yeah, but I mean, what a talent though! He was very talented. It's a shame the injuries kind of creeped in and ruined it, but yeah. But
yeah,
that's
he
what I
was.
mean. So these kind of things, that's where the structure and the planning come into play. Because if we have one or two structured windows, and then that then becomes the ethos, then young players are going to turn around and be like, hold on a second. Oh, what, Man United are interested? Okay, I'm going to listen to what they have to say.
Yeah, that's what we want. But first and
Yeah.
foremost, we want to get trophies on the board,
Mm.
and then we can think about becoming the club that are attractive to young players.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. For me at the moment, it's just about just establishing the style and system. And then
yeah,
obviously it's a big project because we've got a first 11 that's working towards that, but nothing else. We want to be in a position where even the subs and anyone that comes on can fit into the system and just, it'll be like clockwork.
yeah. If Ten Hag lasts as long as what Klopp and Pep Guardiola have done at their
Yeah,
clubs, then he's going to. It means he's doing a good job.
yeah,
So, and he will have built something of a dynasty as well. So
hopefully.
yeah, we're dreaming. We're dreaming. Um, let's see how it goes. But yeah, like we said in the previous show we did together, we're a lot more optimistic now than we were after the first two Premier League games.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that Brighton game was an all-time low, but now we're,
Yeah.
we're now we're looking, positively towards the season, and
Yeah.
and you know we went from not knowing where our next 3 points are coming from, where our next goals come from, to actually thinking that we could go to the Etihad and get a result, because
Yeah.
we've seen Solskjaer do that, we've seen Mourinho do that. Ten Hag has already beaten Liverpool and Arsenal when Arsenal were top of the league,
Mm.
uh, and Liverpool have been great in the last few seasons. So
Yeah, it's not
yeah,
outside the realms of possibility. The only thing I am going to say, I am utterly terrified about that machine they have up front.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
Because
even the finish yesterday. Oh, it was the ball in reminded me of Luka Modric last season. The ball into Rodrigo
you know
against
what,
Chelsea.
going to be an interesting battle between him and
Yeah,
Varane and Martinez.
yeah, and Haaland's finish was like prime Ibrahimovic. That is crazy. There's not too many players that will take on that finish.
There could be a situation. No, when we've beaten City in recent years,
Mm,
it's been on the counter attack, and they're vulnerable
yeah.
to that. We could see Rashford and Anthony and Sancho goes on the counter attack,
Mm.
but Haaland could get them out of jail in that situation.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. And also the way they're coming back into matches as well is quite worrying. Um, because they can be in second gear, but then within a 5 minute period they can switch it around. And their heads don't really drop now when they go goals down. They're still very confident that any moment they can get back into it.
Just look at the last game of last season,
Yeah.
when they were 2-0 down to Aston Villa at home, and we were
Just
all
just
terrified.
yeah, I think psychologically, that does so much for them. In the same token, I think that psychologically, I think it's completely destroyed Liverpool. I think a lot of their struggles this season come from the fact that, they were 2 games away from this potential quadruple, and the way it finished, I think it shattered them.
Yeah, they played every single game possible last season and came away
Yeah,
with two domestic cups.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I almost shed a tear there. Um,
As
yeah,
in, listen, they were talking about it being like, one of the greatest sides of all time, and on paper, it wasn't even better than Gerard Houlier's Mickey Mouse treble winning team.
no, not on paper anyway.
Not on
Yeah,
paper.
and I'm just sitting playing the world's smallest violin.
I'll tell you what, that last game was stressful because I remember we were playing Palace and we were pants against Palace. But second half, I couldn't even concentrate on the Palace game. I was just sort of flicking
Yeah.
between the City and Liverpool.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't even care about the Palace game at that point. I was just desperate for City to score.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you know what? Oh, I'll tell you what kept playing in my head. I was like, oh no, it's going to be another Aguero moment, isn't it? But for either Mane or Salah, oh, that's what I was dreading. That's what I was dreading. Those last 10, 15 minutes. Oh.
Yeah, we got out of jail there. And the only time they actually did win the league, it was behind closed doors. So we'll take that.
Yeah, nobody had to see
Yeah.
it. Uh,
Okay, we'll wrap it up there. If everyone can please subscribe to the channel and comment your thoughts down below and give us a like in the video. And I'll see you again after the national break then, Brush.
yeah, I'll see you in a couple of weeks, mate.
Okay, see you later.